We're updating you on construction and refurb projects going on around the Disneyland Resort, including this diabolical looking scene at Radiator Springs Racers, fast work at Avengers Campus, and the arrival of the Halloween season. But before getting to Cars Land and Radiator Springs, we want to update you on a pretty important change coming to the Disneyland Resort for you rope droppers. Disney announced the other day that they are going to end their perk of early entry for hotel guests staying on property at the Disneyland Hotel, Grand Californian, or Pixar Place Hotel. Those guests were allowed to enter either Disneyland or DCA, depending on the day, 30 minutes ahead of everybody rope dropping. Rope drops at 8 a.m., hotel guests were let in at 7:30, which was, a pretty decent advantage. Allowed you to tackle a couple of rides before the rope droppers get in there. On this morning, we found a huge crowd waiting for Mission Breakout and Radiator Springs Racers, for example. January 4th will be the last day for that program, for early entry. That would be presumably the end of the holiday season. January 5th, no more early entry. They're going to replace that with a single Lightning Lane pass. One Lightning Lane pass for each hotel guest. You're not getting access to every Lightning Lane attraction. One ticket, one Lightning Lane pass for a single attraction of your choice. By the way, that does not include still Radiator Springs Racers or Rise of the Resistance. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about why Disney's doing that. There's been some vocal backlash. We're going to talk about that in our upcoming State of DCA report coming up on Wednesday. I don't want to get too deep into that here because this is mostly construction with some operations, but I felt like I did need to address that in this video at the outset. Stay tuned for State of DCA coming up Wednesday. We're going to have some thoughts about why Disney's doing this, what some of the pros and cons are from both Disney's perspective and from the guest perspective, and what we believe the big story is, the big picture, because I feel like there is a bigger picture here than just the surface change to that policy. So stay tuned for that. For now, we're going to head over to Cars Land, where guests are being told that Radiator Springs Racers is closed. We've been talking about this. There's been a lot of run up to this. Radiator Springs Racers is going to be closing for about 4 weeks for a refurb. Little has been known or discussed about what Disney's doing here, if this is going to be any kind of guest-facing change. I was expecting not to see anything guest-facing, but I wanted to check just to be sure. Not a lot to be seen through the gaps here in these construction walls, but we did get a slight look through this guy, and what I saw was scaffolding. That's scaffolding that's on the track for Radiator Springs Racers. And then if we back up a little bit over there by near to Ramon's, you can see a good look at it there. And here I really thought I was catching something. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm surprised to see the scaffolding for one, but I wasn't expecting to see anything. And then scaffolding. Like I still have not been able to discern or learn what they're doing. But scaffolding is interesting. Same thing as like a Casey chainer. Scaffolding. Go around the corner, Dave. There's lots more scaffolding. But it's actually completely visible to guests. All you gotta do is walk to San Francisco, that little path alongside Radiator Springs Racers, and you can see all the scaffolding you want, all you can eat. Lots and lots of scaffolding happening, and this is all happening around that final turn, the home stretch before the finish line, where you find out who's going to win. And that was, I really was not expecting to see this much scaffolding around. I still can't really tell. It's too early on, I think. It doesn't really give us any sort of indication about what it is they're doing. You need scaffolding to do any number of things, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything invasive or, like they're trying to build something per se. In fact, it took me a minute to realize that all that staging right there on the track, that's actually just more scaffolding. It's they're not building anything. That's just more scaffolding that they haven't yet erected. In fact, I think it's precisely that, something very innocuous, something that guests wouldn't even notice when the attraction reopens. Perhaps some track resurfacing or some underground work on the apparatus that controls the track itself, that pushes the vehicles through. I don't believe this. I mean, not even close do I believe it's anything that's going to change the guest experience in any way other than to perhaps make it better in terms of making it more fluid, perhaps smoother, or, more appealing to the eye. My best guess is resurfacing or improving or cleaning up some wear and tear spots along the track. In a lot of ways, it looks scarier than it really is, because what you're seeing here is staging that's just, for scaffold. It really is just scaffold, which, they use scaffolding just to paint. So all it is that they're trying to get somewhere that they couldn't get otherwise, or they want to get somewhere in comfort and ease at rest, as opposed to having to strain to get up to it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're building anything or doing anything that is destructive to the essence of the attraction. We'll obviously be coming back every single week to check on this for the next 4 weeks to see how things look. So stay tuned for further updates from Fresh Bake. But for now, we're going to head over to Paradise Garden. We were getting lunch there, and I noticed, they've installed the net for Goofy Sky School so that stuff doesn't fall down, or it catches stuff that does fall down from Goofy Sky School. But the walls are still up. The construction walls are still up. It's been like this now for... Well, I should say the nets and the walls still have been up together for a couple of weeks now, at least. So I'm curious if there's something, maybe it's incomplete, maybe the net installation is not complete yet, or that there's something beyond that, something further besides just installing the net. But it's been about 2-3 weeks now since that net has been there, and the construction walls are still up. We'll stay tuned. Let's go to Avengers Campus next to check in on Mission Breakout. I stood by and watched for another 3 minutes to see what was up. And indeed, today, still on this day, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie were all operational at the same time. But perhaps the most shocking thing was that, and I almost couldn't believe it, I felt like there must have been some kind of typo, 13 minutes on the wait time. 13 minutes, which is code for walk-on. If you know anything about Haunted Mansion, they don't ever go 5 or 10. If it's a walk-on, they call it 13 minutes. Same thing here at Mission Breakout. 13 minutes is absolutely, positively unheard of, especially when it's after rope drop. This image was taken at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, guys. 1 p.m. is when I took that photo. 13 minutes? What is happening? And, it's been slow today as we were, making our way around the park. Same thing as last Friday. Very slow, even though today's the first day of the Halloween season. Kind of surprised, but 13 minutes. And all three are working, obviously. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. All three are working, and it has been that way for a little while now, which makes me suspect, because I had heard, the first rumor that I heard was that it was going to be, as soon as Bravo was done, they're going to take down Charlie, and they're going to work on Charlie. And the whole thing was going to take a while, and it would be into the next summer. But then I also heard somebody say, no. It is going to be done. Bravo was the last one, and it will be fully operational. Perhaps they're leaving it like this until the end of the Halloween season, or even till the end of the Christmas season, and then they go back. They take down Charlie in January. Can you believe it? I cannot. I think perhaps it's because of the changeover because it's going to happen in a little bit. They're going to change over from Mission Breakout to Monsters Unleashed, and perhaps people are waiting. They don't want to ride. They would rather ride Monsters, so they don't want to get in the queue. I mean, you could do both, but that's the only logical thing I could think of, is that they're deciding to say no early so that they can ride. So they're waiting for it to change over to Monsters Unleashed. That's the most logical thing I can think of. Okay, guys, if you'll allow me, let me take a quick break to remind you guys of our preferred travel partners, GetAwayToday. They are fans of our show, and we are fans of them. If you are planning a trip to the Disneyland Resort, or to any Disney theme park, or even to Universal or Alani or anything of that nature, make your travel arrangements through GetAwayToday. We love them. They are fantastic. They are the best in the business at making sure that you get everything you need out of a vacation at a Disneyland Resort, or at the Disneyland Resort, or Walt Disney World, or anywhere you like. Knowledgeable, friendly, kind, and you'll probably get a good deal there. Use the link in our description for GetAwayToday. Let them know we sent you, and I hope you guys enjoy your trip. Let's flip the perspective. Let's get back out to Harbor Boulevard to get the latest on Avengers Infinity Defense. Construction has been moving rapidly, and I'm talking rapidly. This is exponentially faster than we've seen Disney build things in the past, at least the recent past. Here is the current state of Avengers Infinity Defense, and we've got 3 levels to the left, 2 levels to the right, and we've got decking, we've got flooring in between the two, and it just looks like there's multiple segments of this building being constructed all at the same time. It's really, really cool to see them finally doing something with pace. They've been very casual. What is that down there on the ground, I wonder? Well, I think I know what that is. That's future Avengers Infinity Defense. But really cool. It's not going to be long, by the way, before we are not going to be able to see anything. It's not going to be long before this building that we're looking at is going to obstruct our view from anything else inside Avengers Infinity Defense. And on the construction site, it's going to be pointless looking from here. So actually, let's get back over to the other side of things. Let's get back into the park, Carsland, and the view from the ground, looking where they're building the restrooms. There was no activity down here that I can see. No activity at all. So let's switch sides once more. This is that angle looking left towards the green barns. So nothing to see here. We saw some construction crews on that side of things. Let's back up and take a little bit further look to the right. And there's the third level building and the 2-level building to its left. There's some guys in there, I believe. Yeah, man. It's such an impressive thing to see how the scale of this, when you look closely and you see the guys working on site and comparing that to the size of the building, how just impressively big this building is going to be. Look at that. They did that in about 3 weeks. All of that you see, that's a big building. All of that is in about 3 weeks, maybe less, between 2 and 3 weeks. Incredible. Another two guys on the roof there. I'm standing there just waving at them, hoping that they wave back at me because they weren't really doing much. They were just posted. But again, look at the scale of the crane and the building and then the guys. It makes me think Cosmic Rewind type scale. Although Cosmic Rewind is bigger than this building, there's something impressive. It's more than just a simple simulator, obviously. There's track and movement going on around here. I mean, it's trackless, technically, but the cars will be moving, I guess is what I'm saying. Your vehicles will be moving throughout the scene. It has to be, because you don't need to build something this big for anything that's, even on the scale of, let's say, like you could probably fit 2 Transformers in that building, Universal. It seems like maybe I'm exaggerating, but I think it's got to be something bigger than that at least. Although, to be honest, it does look a lot like the ride vehicle. It does look a lot like the Transformers and or the Spider-Man ride vehicle at Universal Orlando, which is 20, 30 years old. It's very old, that one. Let's take a look back. We'll look at Coco next. I'm just trying to see if there's anything moving, but no movement here at all going on at Coco. The trailers are still there. We'll take a look. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're back in the park, obviously. We're on a Pixar pal around. What's going on the ground back there? It looks like they've actually sort of leveled that off. There was a lot of staging, a lot of below grade work being done there, but they have prepped that site. So I think they're getting ready to start working on vertical type construction on that area as well. The building is starting to take form. Before we could always saw was a vertical steel, but now it's very clear. I don't know if there's an intrusion on the sightlines here from the ground. I don't recall having seen this building through the Carsland Mountains, because obviously from here there is definitely a visual juxtaposition. But I think that you could, no matter what you do, you can't avoid that if you're on the Pixar pal around. That's not really a sightline issue in that sense. But if you're on the ground, I don't think you can see or will be able to see the Avengers Infinity Defense structure behind the Carsland building or the mountains. Although it does suggest that there, obviously. And then if we pan to the left, that is the current state of that space between Avengers Campus and Carsland. Still just dirt. They're still digging back there, it looks like. Again, they're probably doing something beyond just building a restroom. There's probably a lot more to do there in terms of connecting that space to the new build for Avengers Infinity Defense. And then one last look at the Coco backstage area and the trees back there. We're going to be we're just every week I want to look in here and see if we can see just any kind of movement at all to get an idea of when things might start. Also, one thing we'll note while we're up here, Seaside Souvenirs and Little Mermaid. There's a gap right between those two, right? Seaside on the left, Little Mermaid on the right. That gap is the path that leads you to the Pixar Place Hotel, or from the Pixar Place Hotel to DCA. Guests staying at the Pixar Place Hotel could take a path and scan into the park using that little section. It's like a shortcut. An interesting shortcut. I'm not sure how useful it was. Well, actually, it's not very useful at all, it sounds like, because Disney has said, no, it was underutilized, so we're going to close it. They just built that path, I want to say not even 6 months ago, perhaps. I think it was previous administration. It was under the Potrock administration. This is something that I think that this has been decided by new management, by the new president. And I have to say, I'm not against it. I know that there's some Pixar Place Hotel guests who probably is like, oh, that sucks. But I don't think they didn't publicize it. It wasn't talked about a lot. I don't think most guests even knew it was there. They just skipped it. They didn't use it. And by the way, who wants to enter at Paradise Garden anyway? Right? I mean, I guess you're looking for any kind of shortcut, but I want to start from the front. You know what I mean? I feel like there should be only one way into a park, and that was the way Walt wanted it, and that's the way that I want it. I just want the one entrance in. I'm not even crazy about the Grand Californian entrance, though I get it, and I use it, but I'm not crazy about it, and I'm not crazy really about the monorail entrance at Downtown Disney either. Although that doesn't really count in my opinion, in the same way that the others do. There should be one way in. It's all about show, and it's all about presenting the show to the guests in a certain way, the way that you want them to see it. And that interrupts the show. It's starting the movie in Act 2. Okay, that's what this is. You're starting the movie in Act 2. So I'm not against them doing this, but I understand if people who took advantage of that because it's a lot of walking. That's a long walk, guys, from Pixar Place Hotel to the main entrance. That is you got to cross a street. And then you got to go through the length of Downtown Disney. They will let you, by the way. They've said that Pixar Place Hotel guests can enter through the Grand Californian entrance if they choose. Otherwise, you got to go all the way through Downtown Disney and the main entrance. That was lumped in with the previous news regarding early entry, by the way. So there's changes. There's things they're working on stuff at Disneyland. I would expect more, perhaps, actually, because I feel like this is the first thing since Thomas Masloom was hired to replace Ken Potrock as president. Is it? I just can't be. Not a lot of big policy changes have been made or announcements other than, no, this is about it. The only thing that we've been seeing otherwise is just a lot of refurb, which is good. I like to see the refurb, so there's that. But that's enough on this. Let's get to our next story. Actually, let's get to Disneyland and Main Street.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Peter.
And if you watched our video already, you know that the Halloween season has arrived at the Disneyland Resort. Decorations are up. You'll notice that they did take down the 70th decoration, so it's only... Oh, there's Peter, too. How delightful. There's only the Halloween bunting and no 70th bunting. There is still the 70th decorations at the castle. And we've got this new pumpkin. That's Tiana. We believe that Tiana has replaced Winnie the Pooh out here at the hub. Haunted Mansion is up and open, sporting the new Nightmare overlay for the Halloween season. Check out our Halloween video if you haven't already. We cover all of that and more, including lots of delicious food. Not sure if I mentioned this in previous episodes, but they're still testing. I'm not sure if it's been finalized, but they're still testing single rider at Indiana Jones. It does work nicely. Raised Berets, hanging in there. I believe they may have solved the issue here at Raised Berets with the grass on the roof, because I'm not seeing any sort of further, it's looked like this for a couple of weeks, but it hasn't gotten worse. So I feel like we're rounding the corner. Grass is growing on the roof. Everything looks good. I'm very happy to see that. Fantastic Four is still in Tomorrowland. Guests can still meet Johnny Blaze, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, and the lot here at Tomorrowland. So here's what I'm thinking. The movie Fantastic Four is over. It's got just a little bit of time left in theaters, and you're going to have some, Disney Plus time. But effectively, the promotional phase of Fantastic Four is over. But they're still here. They're here and not in DCA, mind you, not in Avengers Campus. They're here and they're still here. I think this is just gonna be a basic, couch potato type observation. The longer you see the Fantastic Four meeting guests out here, and they built a permanent set for them, by the way, or not semi-permanent anyway. They constructed a set as opposed to just having them stand out there in front. The longer you see that out there, the closer to reality I think we get to this becoming, at least in some way, a Fantastic Four themed land. And it doesn't even matter if the box office isn't what everybody thought it would be, because this place needs a theme. It needs some kind of theme, according to Disney, I think. So whether or not it's a huge success, they have to land on something. Disney has to land on something. And Fantastic Four is probably as good a theme as anything. We'll go next to Fantasyland for the latest from Casey Jr. I mean, it looks about the same because we can't really see much. There's no elevated view. So all we can see is whatever's sticking out over the construction walls. They did, though, put that structure, where the queue is, behind scrim and scaffold. Before it was bare, it was open. Now it's covered, so we can't see anything there. So obviously that's getting a little bit of paint and polish as well. Meanwhile, they've also put Cinderella Castle behind scrim and scaffold. Last week we saw that there was scaffolding there. They now finished the scrim, so that's going to be getting a new paint job as well. And then you can see some construction workers back there again on the track. It's always very exciting to see what they're working on back there. This is going to be quite a project. It's going to be taking probably another couple months is my guess. Oh, and there is Bert and Mary. We always run into them. Mary likes my hat. Yes, Mary likes my hat. It's over. It's over. As for Storybook Land, they've now added scrim to where we saw scaffolding just last week. So there's definitely activity up there. Matter of fact, there's a guy up there. I don't know if I caught him through the lens, but there was a guy up there working on something. So they're actively working on that space up on top, which is fascinating to me. That's the rock work back there that separates Dumbo from Storybook Land. And we still have scrim and scaffold up around Monstro the Whale as well. But no sign of any sort of structure or construction of anything. We mentioned in those permits about the 10-foot something that they're building back there. We still don't know exactly what that is. Idle Buy Snacks situation the same as the last couple of weeks. Construction walls, scrim, scaffold, paint and polish. Let's go to Downtown Disney next. This is the backside of the ESPN zone. They're busy doing something here on the backside of things. So they're trying to get this ready for Lululemon, which is still as unattractive as ever. That the glass there, that's all recently installed, but there was glass there before. This space right here, they've stripped it. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. Are they not happy with it? Because it looks really janky. I have to say, man. I say this every week, but I just don't know how do you make this look good? Yeah, there's the windows are gone there. The stripping of that. I mean, maybe do I have it wrong? I don't know, but it feels like they're going backwards. Earl of Sandwich. I mentioned this back last week when we talked about the glass. I said, they're putting up some glass. I'm like, that looks an awful lot like sheathing. Not glass, but it said dense glass. So I'm like, I'm going to go with glass. But apparently I was right. My instinct was right. Even though it's called dense glass, it is sheathing. The company that makes it is called dense glass, I suppose. But they are putting sheathing, which means that we're getting ready to put an actual surface. A wall is about to be built, or it's the beginning stages of being built here at Earl of Sandwich. Lego Store still constructing their new Lego structure, although we can't see anything yet. I'm sure they're going to probably do it off-site and then install it finished. Tortilla Joe's, that's stalled. Again, I have not seen any movement on this space for at least 3 weeks. This looks exactly like it did the week before and the week before that. Foundation is pretty much ready to go. They just need to get vertical on this thing. I'm hoping they get to that quickly. Because I'm getting bored with this site. And we walk by, we see that same thing every single time. And then that's okay. So that's all the updates. Let's take a look at the refurb calendar. As of today, Star Tours is closed. It is expected to reopen on September 5th, according to the Disney refurb calendar. Casey Jr. and Storybook Land are both closed, as we just mentioned. No known reopening date, so it's going to be at least until October 6th before we see that attraction or either of those attractions open up. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, we mentioned this last week. We now have a close date of September 2nd. Big Thunder will close on September 2nd. And of course, no known date for that yet. I expect that to take a few months. It could get into Christmas time, into the December season. Mark Twain is closing on September 8th. It'll be down for 4 days, reopening on September 12th. The Main Street Cinema is closing also on September 8th. And again, this is interesting. It's going to be closed for, what is that, more than 3 weeks. They just installed the tribute to the Sherman Brothers in the last verse. And so it's kind of confusing to me. What could they be doing? This feels like almost a surprise. Certainly they're not going to uninstall it, right? I don't think. So, Main Street Cinema closing on September 8th, reopening on September 26th. Pirate's Lair is closing for 3 days, closing on September 15th, reopening on September 18th. Dumbo closing for 2 days on September 16th, reopening on September 18th. I'm going to assume that's related to what they're doing at Casey Jr. and Storybook Land. And then the Columbia, that's closing on the 22nd, also for 4 days, reopening on September 26th. Over at DCA, as we know, Radiator Springs Racers is closed. It'll be reopening on September 26th. That's a closure of about 5 weeks total. And then Goofy Sky School is the most recent addition to the refurb calendar, closing on September 28th, reopening on October 5th. That suggests that this is not a big deal. Something small and minor. The fact that we already have a reopening date means it's minor at worst. No big deal there. And that, you guys, is our construction update for this week. Thank you so very much for watching. We do love you guys. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh baked.